Hey guys, Jeff Kamke here with Wealth Energetics. In this video, I want to talk a little bit about bioenergetics. So in this channel, if you know me and my business, we're talking about two different things here, wealth and the energetics, right? It's the inner work and it's the financial strategy. So if you're a chiropractor, if you're a forward-thinking person, you're an out-of-the-box thinking person, you're an entrepreneur, a business owner, you just want more out of life, this is the channel for you and the content you're probably seeking at a deep level, not only what to do differently about your money, but what to do differently around doing the inner work, because you can read a lot of books, you can go to a lot of seminars, and what I find is that people want to improve different areas of their life, and they can have a mentor give them principles, they can read a book and hear about, oh, you should do this in this situation, or act this way in this situation, or follow this success principle. And those things absolutely work. But what I find is that people, once they get that information and knowledge, sometimes they have a hard time putting it in place. And putting it into place can mean you have barriers to that. You have gaps in your circuitry, as one of our mentors, Dr. Sue Morter, talks about, where we just aren't able to move forward. Maybe we do a little bit, but not in the way that we want, towards the goals and towards the changes that we want to make. We can learn a bit of data, we can learn that principle, but then we have to go through repetition after repetition after repetition to try to make that change. And a lot of times there is something holding you back from making that change. And so what I want to talk about in this video is getting into a little bit of the bioenergetic side of things and what this looks like, what it looks like to do a session with us, and how that can make a change for you. So let me go back to the very beginning in this and talk about just how a lot of this came about from the training that I've had. So Dr. Morter, he was a chiropractor going through chiropractic school back in, I think it was the 1960s, a long, long time ago. Dr. Morter's now passed away. He passed away, gosh, 11 years ago now. I studied under him and his health system many years ago, back in 2011, and learned the bioenergetics. And so Dr. Morter, he was one of these forward-thinking guys, out-of-the-box thinking guys, and you could probably resonate with that. And he, going through chiropractic schools, like, you taught me how to adjust bones, but you never taught me why a subluxation or a bone out of place occurs. And so he went to the dean of the school and said, why does this happen? You guys aren't teaching us this. And they're like, well, we don't really know the answer to that. You're a bright, student. Why don't you go figure it out for yourself? So that's exactly what Dr. Morter did. And so what he discovered, and I'll try to be brief and not go too deep with this, it's very cool to understand this, the thought process that went into this and the discoveries that were made and how it can be relevant to you making changes in your life, and where it comes at the bioenergetic level first. And if you change that, a lot of things can change in your life. So what Dr. Morter discovered is, yes, we have bones in our body. Yes, we have bones in the spine, but they don't have a mind of their own. They don't decide one day to just bump out of place and cause you pain or cause you discomfort or cause, the burning sensations that you might get, or maybe cause you other ailments that can be related to a bone out of place that you might not equate with that, maybe even heart trouble. There's a lot of different things that can be a culprit back to nerve interference in the spine, right? So he found that, things are connected to those bones, muscles, ligaments, tendons, and those things are routed up into the brain. And then the brain is sending signals down through those muscles to the nerves and to the ligaments and everything connected to the bone, sending a signal to contract one side to move the bone out of place. And where are those signals coming from? He wanted to know. And so he started looking into the science of this and found out that 90%, 90 some percent, I don't remember the exact number, but the majority of what the brain is telling the body to do, and whether it's the spine or whether it's your digestive system, your immune system, your reproductive system, or even our thoughts and what we do in our life or don't do, comes from subconscious memory. And he found that the vast majority of the signals being done in our body through our brain into the nervous system is coming from past experiences and past locked in trauma, past emotional upsets, that the brain at a subconscious level is replaying something from the past and is not in what we call present time consciousness. It's not in the here and now, functioning at the level of the goals and the dreams and the ambitions and the tasks and the action steps that you're trying to take. It's replaying things from your past. And so where did these things come from our past? Well, I think it's somewhat obvious to most of us, like, oh yeah, it's probably growing up, childhood, like, yeah, we got yelled at, we got picked on, we witnessed, maybe financial struggle or divorce, or, job change or we moved a lot. Like there's a lot of things that we go through and like we kind of generally know that, yeah, those things affect us. But what Dr. Mortar found is specifically how those things affect us. And so let me share a little bit about what this is, because this will shed a lot of light on where you're at right now, why you're there, and maybe why you're having a challenge moving forward in your life. It all comes down to emotion or vibration. It really, if you really distill it down, it is a frequency. Every thought we have is a frequency. And we know this through quantum physics. It's measurable. There's instruments that can detect that. And so what Dr. Mortar found is there's two ways that these emotions, these frequencies get stuck subconsciously where the brain is replaying something over and over again. And what he found was we all have a threshold, if you will, of how much stress we can handle. And for some people, you might know people that are like really, really good at handling stress. They don't get upset. They don't get flustered. They stay calm. They stay cool. They can handle it. Then might know other people that the minute there's a little bit of stress, they just like short circuit. They can't think. Their emotions go all over the place. They get upset. They might cry. They might yell. Like they don't have control over their emotions. So what Dr. Mortar found is whatever your personal, threshold is for emotion, if you have experiences in your life where you go above that threshold, that is when adrenaline is high and it locks in a subconscious pattern through emotion. And so in our work of bioenergetics, we talk about how adrenaline is the super glue of the subconscious mind. So anytime adrenaline spikes, whatever we're feeling in that moment, and whatever sensory input is coming in, whatever we're seeing, tasting, hearing, touching, all those different things. There could be even sixth sense connections with this as well that all are dialed in and imprinted subconsciously. So there's two main ways that this can happen. One is through very intense, short-lived experiences. Maybe it's a car accident. Maybe it's not knowing you were going to get fired on Monday morning and you walked into your work thinking everything's great and a pink slip gets handed to you. That's a very shocking thing. Maybe it's similar to that, but with like divorce. You have no idea your wife or husband's about ready to leave, and you come home and on the dining room table is divorce papers. You didn't even know it was in the realm of possibilities, right? There's a lot of different things. Maybe it's a health diagnosis. You thought you were in really good health, and then wham, you got hit with maybe a cancer diagnosis or something like that. So you can probably relate to things that you've experienced in your life that are out of the blue, happen really fast. It shoots your adrenaline through the roof, and that locks in a subconscious pattern. The second way, and this is probably more common because it's more day-to-day stuff, where we have an emotion. Maybe you're witnessing, stress in your household. Maybe you're watching a loved one's health deteriorate, or maybe you're experiencing financial stress. There's a lot of different things, but it's maybe when it first started, it was just a little bit of emotion. It didn't really upset you that much, but it's something that you're in it every day or you're around it all the time. And as the weeks and months go by and you keep observing it and you're still in that situation, the intensity of emotion starts creeping up more and more and more and more. And maybe it's in a marriage, frustrations with, a spouse, or lack of communication, lack of intimacy. There's a lot of things, obviously, that this can tie into, but it's that repetitive emotion that builds on itself over time. And eventually, maybe after weeks, months, or years, gets you above that threshold where your adrenaline around watching a loved one get sick and start to be near dying or maybe even pass away, or the arguing with a spouse, or, obviously you guys can fill in the blank on a lot of scenarios. And then that adrenaline gets so high, it locks in another subconscious pattern associated with the emotions that you're feeling. So a lot of times there can be negative emotions that you're feeling when adrenaline gets high. And then moving forward, you experience that same negative emotion, maybe watching a movie, maybe in a conversation, that same negative emotion is triggered, or something at work that triggers that same negative emotion. And subconsciously, it brings back all that emotional trauma, all that energy comes with it, and it keeps replaying the subconscious pattern that's going on. And that is something that is very real for many of us and is a reason why we don't move forward. And here's a really interesting thing that Dr. Mortar discovered, though. It's not just negative emotions that can be our blocks. See, most of us think, oh, all of our blocks are fear or worry or anxiety or some sort of stress. They're all these negative emotions: hate, jealousy, greed. That's where all of our blocks are at. But what Dr. Mortar found is actually many of our blocks are stored under positive emotions. And that might be kind of like, whoa, that might hit you kind of hard. Like, I've never thought about that. So let me explain some situations that might reveal, might key in some memories of from childhood or even as an adult of where you've been in a positive feeling state and something negative happens. So let me give you a couple examples. One, now I've got a couple of younger children, and there's been times where they're drawing on the wall, right, with crayons or marker, and they're in a creative energy, right? They've got something in their little mind, and they're just super excited. They're putting it on the wall, and like, Mom, Dad, come check this thing out. This is super cool. Look what I drew on the wall. And as a parent's first reaction, you're thinking, oh my gosh, you ruined the wall. We have to now repaint or, clean all this up. And how could you do this? You're a bad kid, right? You, as a parent, you naturally want to yell at them because they've done something wrong. And so many times that can happen, right? You yell at your kid and, maybe you really yell at them. And so they're in a positive, creative, expressive feeling, right? And then you, what Dr. Mortar called is bushwhack them, where you basically take their feet out from underneath them, not literally, figuratively, with you getting on them, with being upset, yelling at them, um, you know, those types of things. And in their mind, as a youngster, they're in creative energy and they just got in trouble for it. And if it's a strong enough emotion, like we talked about, where it goes above their threshold, it locks in a subconscious pattern. Then that moving forward for them as they go into adult life and they want to create a new business, they want to create wealth, they want to create abundance, they want to create happiness. When they're in creative energy, their subconscious automatically puts the brakes on and goes, remember when we were little, we were drawing on the wall. And when we were in creative energy, we got in trouble for that. So let's not get in trouble. So let's not be creative. Let's not move forward with that. And so maybe you have a business right now that you're trying to be successful at. And you're like, why can't I be successful with this business? I'm trying to be creative. I'm trying to do all these things and I just can't seem to move forward with them. I can't execute these steps. I know what to do and I can't get myself to do it. More than likely, you have a subconscious program from something in childhood that is holding you back. It is a trauma that your subconscious is playing, and your subconscious, to protect you, keeps you from experiencing what it perceives as a threat when you're in creative energy. So therefore, you aren't going to act appropriately. You're not going to think appropriately. You're going to do things to self-sabotage, to talk yourself out of it, to get in your own way. That is a natural byproduct of what can happen with this. So that is a big possibility. Maybe another one, this is an example I share sometimes as well, is maybe you're in sales and you just had a really big sale. You're super excited. You're driving home. You're like excited to tell your spouse you just made $5,000 today because you sold, a product or service or whatever your business is, and you get T-boned in an intersection. And so you're in this like blissful state. You're proud of yourself. You just blissful, whatever the emotion is, and then it's stored with a trauma. And so then maybe moving forward after that accident, you have a hard time duplicating that level of success in your business. Maybe you're really struggling financially. You can't seem to close the deal anymore. Well, subconsciously, you know that, well, you know what? I had this experience. It was a traumatic experience. I had a lot of fear from this accident, but it's subconsciously, it's stored energetically and emotionally with the feelings of bliss or being accomplished and feeling proud of yourself. And then as you try to recreate that again in the future, trying to be proud of your accomplishments and have that happiness and that bliss around what your accomplishments are, subconsciously it's stored with fear, that experience. And again, your brain will protect you. It says, I don't want to experience more accomplishment because the last time that happened, we got T-boned, and I just don't want to experience that level of trauma again. Maybe there's even physical injuries with that. And this is the fascinating thing that Dr. Mortar found, was this isn't about necessarily just our success in life and how are we able to execute, action steps towards our goals and be able to think things and attract and create things energetically. It's also how the systems of our body can get out of balance. So we have a lot of systems of our body. Obviously, we have a circulatory system, and we have our nervous system, and we have our reproductive system, and our immune system, and our hormonal system, and endocrine system. There's all these systems of the body. In all of these scenarios I'm talking about, if we're in adrenaline mode, there's certain systems that get turned up faster when we're in adrenaline, and other ones that get turned down because at an innate level, our brain knows if we're under adrenaline, we're maybe running from a bear, right? If you want to think about that in kind of basic human terms, right? If you're running for your life, you're surviving, there's certain systems of your body that just logically say, well, if I'm going to devote a ton of energy to running as fast as I can to safety, I don't need to be worried about reproduction right now. I don't need to be worried about digesting my lunch right now. So let's turn those systems down. So what can happen not only in our life and towards our goals, but with our body is if we are stuck in a symptom pattern that supplements aren't getting rid of, talk therapy isn't getting rid of, acupuncture isn't getting rid of it, chiropractic adjustments don't seem to be fixing that subluxation in your spine. There's a lot of scenarios that happen. They're not being fixed because you're not getting to the root cause of it. So you can supplement all day long, but if you don't get rid of the root reason why the body is out of balance and turning up the systems that it is and turning down the systems that it is, you're going to have a hard time finding, the healing energy that's naturally innate to your body. And so a lot of times going through these steps to neutralize the interference, and that's what a bioenergetic session does. And I'll have other videos that go into how the session works, what it looks like. So if you're interested in experiencing this, you know what to experience. But in this video, I just kind of want to give you an overview of kind of the background and the philosophies and the understanding of what bioenergetics is all about and how it can have an impact in your life, not only with your health, but how you create and show up in your life and what you create and manifest in your life towards those goals. So that's a little bit about that, because understanding the impact on health is also very paramount, because if we're trying to create more wealth in our life, a lot of times health can be a limiting factor for that. And it may show up in a few different ways. It might be you don't have the energy, the physical energy, to put in extra effort into your business. Maybe you're working a job and you've got another business. I mean, I've done that. I do that. I've got, many irons in the fire, right? Is I'm working towards my goals. You have stable cash flow, you're growing other businesses. I've got a lot going on, and that can be the case. Sometimes you get burned out. Sometimes you don't have the physical energy for that. And so, that can limit your ability to be successful. It can also be a drain of resources. If you have, a lot of health challenges and you're needing to devote a lot of time and money towards, doctor visits and supplements, right? That can have an impact on creating the life that you want and the wealth that you want. So those things go hand in hand. If we can improve our health and also improve our mindset, our motivation, our discipline through removing these subconscious patterns that are replaying things from your past. And we need to do what's called updating the subconscious to present moment for who you are today, where you're going today, the goals that you have today, and being able to see those clearly without what we would call interference, where when we think of our goal, it's more of a clear path forward. There isn't counterintention. There isn't sabotage thoughts. There isn't the little voice that plays in your head of, well, that's not going to work out, or I don't know how to do that, so I can't move forward. All those little things that go on all the time. When we remove those interferences subconsciously, then when you think about the thought, I need to make cold calls, or I need to go door to door, or I need to, hire more employees, or I need to learn the skill set, or maybe I need to learn more negotiation or sales skills. And up until then, you've been talking yourself out of it, but now you're able to move forward with it, because when you think about what you're wanting, there isn't the negative attachment from those experiences that you've had that are traumatic and negative, and those emotions well up. And then your body isn't trying to protect yourself from the success that you're after, because it was doing that before because it was tied to those negative experiences. And when we can disassociate those energetically and really break the tie energetically, where those emotions are turned back down below that threshold that we have, right? We're bringing those emotions back down. Then we can move forward more appropriately. Now, it's not going to be an instant fix. It's not like goes from 0 to 100. It's still a process, but it can make a significant difference sometimes right away with people. Sometimes it takes a few sessions to clear out enough subconscious gunk. But literally, while I'm shooting this video, just before this video, I was going to be doing 2 bioenergetic sessions. One of them was with a gal that I've done maybe 8 or so sessions on. One of the things we were working on was finding a mate. And the reason she had to reschedule tonight is because she's going on a date tonight with somebody that she really likes. And so she's removed subconscious interference. And see, like energetically, those of you that understand energy and the law of attraction, we have an energetic signal that is always being broadcast from us 24/7. And a lot of it is the past things that are vibrating, that were being sent out. See, it's not just our conscious thoughts that we're thinking. Like the movie The Secret, and a lot of the teachings that are that are like 70% on point. Like there's good things in those, but they leave things out. There's only part of the recipe in that. And part of that is that you can think thoughts consciously. You can dream about things, but it's the subconscious thoughts that are 99% of your vibration, of what your body is sending out through your energy field, through actually conscious thoughts. You could even say what you're praying over, what you're praying about, because you can only pray consciously so much, but the thoughts you have subconsciously are sending out 24/7 prayers and 24/7 thoughts, 24/7 vibrations. So if those dominant vibrations are counter to what you're trying to create in your life, you're going to have a hard time doing it. It's going to feel like going uphill all the time. So when we make these changes, when we go in and make these adjustments, it's like my client. Then all of a sudden her reality starts changing because she's vibrating differently. She's attracting differently. She's creating differently in her life. New people, new circumstances, new experiences and events start to come in that match her new frequency that is now removed of some of the interference, the things that are interfering with where she's trying to go. Now it's in alignment. And now, if you've ever read any of the Abraham Hicks books, it talks about these principles that what you want, if you ask for it, it is coming towards you, but you're repelling it. And we repel it through our thoughts and our dominant subconscious vibrations that are in opposition, if you will, to them. They're not congruent with what we're wanting. And so this bioenergetic technique that we do helps eliminate that, helps to get those things more in alignment. So it's easier for us to show up the way we want to and create in our life. It's easier for us to track the things that are in alignment with where we want to go. And it's easier for our bodies to become back in balance so that they work more efficiently. When we use supplementation, when we eat good foods, those foods are more nourishing. The digestive system isn't maybe turned too far down or turned too far up because of the stress that we're under. And everything just starts to assimilate better. Our nutrition goes further. We maybe sleep better. We have more energy. We have more mental clarity. A lot of those things are very common. I obviously can't promise everything for everybody, all those different things. It's very individualized. And, this certainly isn't health advice. This certainly isn't diagnosing and curing anything. This is just getting the body back in balance and allowing healing energy to come back to the surface, to be able to not be blocked and interfered. So it's very, very powerful. So hopefully this video is very enlightening for you. Hopefully you learn some new concepts and understand maybe the way that your body's working and why you are where you're at, and give you some hope of, hey, there's ways to get beyond some of these things that sometimes seem like I'm never going to get past this. I can never change. I can never become the person that I want to do or want to be. I can never do the things that I want to accomplish. There's ways to make these changes. And so in other videos, we're going to go into talking about this. So make sure you go to our channel, make sure you look for those videos. I'll have them in a playlist, all in the bioenergetics, and you can learn a little bit more about how these techniques work, how you can start with them, what kind of impact they can have. And there's a lot of great things that can come from this kind of work that can really help you break free from the things that are holding you back. So if you found value in this video, please share it with other people. Make sure you're subscribed to this YouTube channel so you can be alerted anytime I create new content like this, or around wealth strategies and implementing the knowledge of what people are doing at the wealthy level that the middle class usually isn't taught about, with what they can do with their money for more control, so those dollars can go further, so you can make a bigger impact in your life and, just do things financially that are more in alignment with your values and beliefs. So thank you for sharing your time with me in this video. If you have any comments or suggestions or questions, certainly leave them in the comments below. And we'll look forward to catching you in the next video. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.